From the outside, it looked like a love story written in the stars. Two Chicago-born icons, two careers defined by resilience, brilliance, and reinvention, suddenly orbiting each other in a way that seemed destined. To fans, it felt natural, almost inevitable, that Jennifer Hudson and Common would find their paths crossing in a meaningful way. But like all great stories that take the world by surprise, this one carried undercurrents no one noticed at first. Small details, shifts in tone, subtle hesitations, hints that the surface was only part of the truth. In those early months, the world only saw the warmth. Jennifer Hudson spoke with gratitude about life and blessings. She often mentioned how every day felt purposeful, guided by faith rather than impulse. To her, the idea of letting God lead every movement wasn't just a phrase, it was the framework of her life. And when she hinted that her relationship was something she trusted God with, fans instantly believed this was a romance she considered sacred. Meanwhile, Common painted a picture of peace and alignment. He often described the relationship as something meaningful, something balanced, something that fit naturally into his life. On public platforms, he would call Jennifer a blessing, emphasizing how equally yoked they were. To his supporters, these words sounded sincere, heartfelt, and clear. But to critics who had followed his long dating history, the statements sparked a familiar skepticism. Many wondered if this was another beautifully packaged chapter in a pattern of relationships that began with passion and ended with quiet distance. Still, during those early days, none of that doubt mattered. The energy was too bright, too fulfilling, too genuine. Jennifer Hudson had always been protective of her personal life, never rushing to confirm or deny romance rumors. But a noticeable shift happened as her connection with Common deepened. She didn't give much away, but she allowed small, tender moments to slip through, moments that hinted at happiness. In interviews, she would smile, soften, and acknowledge that she was in a happy place. For someone as private as Jennifer, that tiny admission carried enormous weight. And yet, behind that happiness, something else was quietly forming tension. Expectations, public fascination, media scrutiny. The kind of pressure that begins softly and grows louder until it becomes impossible to ignore. Their story didn't begin in 2024 when the tabloids started buzzing. The truth went back years earlier. Jennifer and Common had run into each other throughout their careers. Charity events, industry gatherings, music-related appearances. Two Chicago natives, both widely respected, both steady in their crafts. They were familiar, but not close. Yet every time they crossed paths, fans noticed the way they interacted: warm, comfortable, almost intuitive. In hindsight, those subtle moments looked like previews of everything that was coming. But it wasn't until they stood side by side on the set of a sci-fi thriller in 2024 that the spark became undeniable. Working long hours, sharing creative energy, exchanging ideas on set, all created a chemistry that even the crew whispered about. For Jennifer, acting had always been another extension of her artistry, but this film offered something more than a role. It brought into her life a man who seemed aligned with her rhythm, her spirituality, and her sense of purpose. For Common, the connection felt like a revelation. He spoke openly about how this set had allowed them to discover a partnership built on mutual respect and creativity. While he didn't explicitly label it as love, the undertones were unmistakable. But the world didn't fully take notice until paparazzi caught them together in public, first in Philadelphia, then Chicago, then Malibu. Each sighting grew more intimate, more intentional. Meanwhile, TMZ attempted to downplay the situation, pushing the just friends narrative. But fans weren't buying it. Something about their chemistry felt richer than friendship, more layered, more meaningful. As the whispers grew louder, Common began shifting the tone in his interviews. On a popular podcast in mid-2024, he praised Jennifer with unusual intensity, describing her as a significant blessing in his life. He used words like alignment, balance, and harmony. Those keywords made fans lean closer because they sounded like a man trying to frame a relationship as stable, equal, and deeply rooted in purpose. But some listeners caught something different too. Hint of performance, as if he were trying to prove something rather than simply express it. The sentiment was beautiful, but the delivery raised questions. Jennifer, on the other hand, didn't rush to publicly match his energy. Her statements were softer, private, controlled. Rather than grand declarations, she offered glimpses, like referring to her favorite moments as calls with that man of mine. It was subtle, but it mattered. It confirmed a connection without putting it on display. This difference in openness created a simmering tension between how each person wanted the world to perceive the relationship. Common leaned into poetic descriptions, as if shaping the narrative through words. Jennifer stayed grounded, cautious, and measured. Still, from the outside, the romance appeared steady. Something peaceful, something blessed. But beneath that peace was a storm building slowly, quietly, inevitably. Part of it came from the entertainment world itself. Everyone knew Common's reputation, a man of deep talent but complicated relationship patterns. A man who loved intensely but didn't always stay. A man whose public love stories often began with devotion and ended with polite strategic distance. And for Jennifer Hudson, an EGOT winner, a mother. A woman who had endured personal tragedy and rebuilt her life from the ashes, this was not someone fans wanted to see hurt. Public opinion began shifting long before any drama unfolded. While many supported the couple, others warned Jennifer to tread carefully. Blogs began resurfacing patterns from Common's past, analyzing his words, dissecting his tone. Comparing his previous relationships, yet Jennifer, ever composed, continued living in her grace. She didn't respond to rumors. She didn't defend. Her relationship, she didn't entertain speculation. Her silence became a weapon and a shield. As months passed, the story grew more intense when fans began questioning whether the relationship was balanced. Some claimed Jennifer seemed more grounded, more focused, more emotionally invested. Others insisted Common appeared infatuated but inconsistent. And then came the whispers that shifted everything. Suddenly, rumors emerged claiming Jennifer Hudson might already have a new man in her life long before the public even knew anything was wrong. Alleged receipts circulated online. Cryptic comments from insiders added fuel to the fire. Fans felt a shock ripple through social media. This wasn't just a breakup theory anymore. It was the beginning of a narrative collapse. The world started to wonder, was Jennifer stepping away from Common before he stepped away from her? Was someone else involved? Or was the internet turning a minor misunderstanding into a tornado? The tension reached a new peak when a well-known blind item dropped online hinting at betrayal. It didn't name names, but fans immediately connected the dots. Within hours, Common vanished. No interviews, no red carpets, no posts, no reactions. For a man deeply involved in media, that silence was deafening. Meanwhile, Jennifer Hudson continued moving like a force of nature. Her daytime show remained a success. Her production deals expanded. Hollywood's elite continued supporting her, publicly and privately. Even Oprah's name floated quietly behind the scenes. It became clear, in a battle of narratives, influence mattered on. Jennifer had it. By the time fans realized the scales were tipping, it was too late. Online conversations began painting Jennifer as the wronged queen, the woman rising above, the silent powerhouse maintaining dignity while chaos erupted around her. And Common? People suddenly viewed him as unstable, unsure, or lost. As the world watched this dynamic unfold, one question became impossible to ignore. Was this relationship ever meant to last? Or was the beginning just too perfect to survive? The truth. This was only the start of a story far more dramatic, more emotional, and more explosive than anyone expected. And this is where the unraveling truly begins. From the outside, everything still looked steady. Jennifer Hudson continued appearing radiant on her daytime show, hosting guests with her signature warmth. Common maintained his polished presence, attending events with that calm and introspective demeanor he had built his career on. To most observers, the couple still appeared aligned, centered, and mutually supportive. But beneath those curated images, something quieter, almost invisible had begun shifting the balance. It started subtly. The kind of changes only the most attentive fans noticed. Less interaction online, fewer public outings. A slight decline in shared enthusiasm. In a world where celebrities often use social media as the stage for their affection, the silence between Jennifer and Common grew increasingly loud. As months passed, the energy that once felt harmonious began to feel slightly off. Jennifer's focus sharpened around her career, her creative projects, and the expanding empire she was quietly building. She had always been a woman of ambition, but this period marked a heightened intensity. Every move she made seemed intentional, strategic, powerful. Meanwhile, Common was undergoing a transformation of his own, a shift that didn't align as seamlessly with Jennifer's path. He spoke often about personal healing, spiritual alignment, and his quest for deeper clarity. But even that narrative carried undertones that hinted at inner conflict. Fans who analyzed his interviews sensed a familiar hesitation, a sense of emotional turbulence he couldn't quite conceal. In earlier months, he had spoken with passion about being in an aligned relationship. But gradually, that confident tone faded. The once enthusiastic articulation became more reserved, more uncertain, more rehearsed. It was as if he were repeating an affirmation he hoped would become real. This contrast between the two Jennifers' upward momentum and Common's quiet introspection became the first visible crack in the foundation. While they both maintained politeness and grace in their public presence, the lack of shared visibility grew too obvious for fans to ignore. Online communities dedicated to celebrity relationships began circulating theories. Some argued that the pair were simply choosing privacy. Others believed the distance was intentional, an early sign of an ending both were preparing for, but neither wanted to address publicly. At the height of this speculation, Jennifer's career soared even higher. Her daytime show reached new success. Production partnerships multiplied, and she stepped further into her position as a cultural powerhouse, a woman with influence, elegance, and an unmistakable sense of self-worth. Her reign in Hollywood continued strengthening to the point where even silent gestures carried meaning. Common, however, appeared increasingly withdrawn. He kept up appearances, but something had changed. Red carpets where he once seemed deeply grounded now showed flashes of distraction. Interviews where he'd once spoken confidently now carried quiet pauses. His social media presence thinned out, leaving fans wondering if he was navigating challenges behind the scenes. Then came the moment that privately changed everything. The emergence of rumors claiming Jennifer Hudson might not be emotionally invested in the way everyone assumed. Instead, speculation suggested she may have already found spiritual or emotional companionship elsewhere. No confirmation ever surfaced, but the whispers alone were enough to destabilize the public narrative. It wasn't the rumor itself that caused the rupture, it was the reaction. Common's silence grew deeper. Jennifer's confidence grew louder. This imbalance turned subtle private tension into public suspicion. The entertainment world began dissecting every detail. Theories flooded social media. Analysts, fans, and bloggers attempted to read between lines that were never meant to be deciphered. Suddenly, every expression, every gesture, every absence became evidence. A casual moment could be taken as a sign. A postponed event became an excuse for speculation. But the turning point came when a particularly credible blind item surfaced, one that hinted at betrayal in a major Hollywood pairing. The item didn't mention names, but it didn't have to. Fans connected dots instantly. And within hours, the narrative flipped. The man and the rumored couple went silent, withdrawing from public view entirely. Events he would normally attend passed without his presence. Posts he would normally share never appeared. Interviews that had been confirmed were abruptly canceled. That man, according to the internet's consensus, was Common. His vanishing act created a shockwave. Common was a man who rarely disappeared, especially not during promotional seasons or industry cycles. For him to retreat with such intensity suggested turmoil, conflict, hurt, or perhaps strategy. In contrast, Jennifer Hudson remained steady. She didn't react to the blind item. She didn't confirm or deny anything. She didn't rush to her platform to defend herself. Instead, she continued operating like a woman who refused to let external noise disrupt her purpose. Her silence wasn't passive, was powerful. It sent a message that she didn't owe anyone explanations, validation, or emotional performances. Her composure during this turbulent time shifted public sympathy. Instead of questioning her, fans began rallying behind her. They interpreted her quiet strength as proof of dignity, emotional depth, and self-respect. In a culture that values authenticity but also resilience, Jennifer's unwavering poise positioned her as the queen in this unfolding narrative. The difference between the two became glaring. While Common's absence created concern and speculation, Jennifer's consistency created admiration. Public perception is rarely fair, but it is always revealing. In this case, Jennifer's stability contrasted so sharply with Common's silence that fans began assigning roles to the story. Jennifer, the wronged but graceful woman. Common, the confused man who mismanaged something precious. This unspoken framing became the heartbeat of online conversations. Social media didn't hold back. On platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, people began dragging Common for behaviors they assumed he exhibited: emotionally withdrawing, lacking commitment, repeating old patterns. Some fans even referenced his past relationships, suggesting he had a tendency to drift when things became serious. None of these claims were confirmed, but the narrative spread quickly. Rumors always travel faster than logic. Meanwhile, Jennifer's supporters painted her as the epitome of strength and growth. A woman whose success and stability naturally eclipsed any bruised relationship. Her fans insisted that she deserved someone emotionally steady, someone spiritually aligned, someone capable of matching her level of purpose. Then there was the deeper layer of discussion, one centered on power. Jennifer Hudson wasn't just an artist or actress. She had become an industry empire. Networks trusted her. Advertisers invested in her. Executives valued her. Even Oprah held her in high regard. In Hollywood, influence matters, and Jennifer's influence was immense. When combined with her grace during the unfolding drama, the public began embracing a narrative where she was the victim of someone else's emotional instability. Common, despite being respected in his own right, simply couldn't compete with that level of public sympathy. Celebrities close to Jennifer subtly reinforced this perception. Liking certain posts, sharing vague motivational messages, supporting her projects. Small actions that strengthened the idea that she was rising above something painful. As speculation continued growing, fans started creating timelines charts, analyzing their last public appearance. Posts examining their body, language, breakdowns, highlighting inconsistencies in Common's interviews. The entire internet became investigators, determined to uncover the truth behind the couple's emotional unraveling. But what made the situation even more intense was the question no one could avoid. If Jennifer truly had moved on emotionally, or even romantically, what did that mean for Common? Was he blindsided? Dynamic was even more complicated than anyone realized. This was no longer simply a question of whether the relationship was ending. It became a question of why, the imbalance, the miscommunication, the emotional distance, the power dynamic. Everything was creating a pressure cooker waiting to erupt. And the most explosive chapter was still ahead. Because soon enough, rumors would turn into reactions. Silence would turn into consequences. And the world would finally see the shadow that had been forming behind the scenes long before the wah. Public, was he holding on to something she had already released? Was he trying to repair something she believed was beyond saving? These questions fueled the drama, transforming private tension into public spectacle. And with every new theory, every new video, every new blind item, the tension only escalated. As the pressure mounted, the story transitioned from curiosity to conflict. Fans wanted answers. The media wanted clarity. And insiders hinted that the couple's